Say it ain't so, Sony. Say it ain't so. Today, they withdrew from E3 2019, and I am beyond bummed. What's going on, guys and girls? It's GhostRobo, and E3 has been my favorite week of the year for so many years, I can't even count. From the time I was young, I followed video games aggressively, whether it was via magazines, podcasts, the internet, my own exploration of games via buying as many as I could and experiencing as many as I could, YouTube, whatever it was. I have followed this industry like a fiend forever, and E3 was the week, and it's been the week for most of my life. That is my favorite week of the year. More than Christmas, more than my birthday, more than summer break. It is the best time of the year for me because I love seeing all the brand new stuff, and lately, thankfully, I've been able to go and play all the new stuff. It is phenomenal. And even if you're watching from home, I've always found it to be so fun. And if you're there, it's even better. But more and more E3 is withering. It is dissolving slowly but surely. And we've seen it happen in the past and then come back. And now it seems like we're back to that dwindling point. And there's many reasons. I don't want to get into all of them. But this one is a big blow to the show. Having Sony pull out, that's hard. 3 major publishers fill one of the halls: Nintendo, Microsoft, and Sony. Last year, Microsoft moved a lot of their stuff across to LA Live. Nintendo will probably be there, I'm sure, but they sometimes have a very limited showing of what they put forth. Microsoft tweeted that, hey, they're going to be back. We look forward to seeing you at E3. Where and what capacity, I don't know. But this is not good if you are a fan of the maybe formerly biggest show in gaming. You know, there's so many conventions now, and we see them expanding the opportunity for people to see these games and expanding the amount that can be revealed, expanding the exposure for different smaller titles and publishers and indie developers. But the price you pay then is that all of them are stretched thin. Instead of having one major show, you have a bunch of littler shows, and that just continues to ooze from the middle and separate the stunner of a week that E3 used to be. So for Sony specifically, why are they doing this? Why are they bumming me out? Why are they dealing this sort of death blow to E3? Now, the show will go on, but it won't be the same. You could argue that Sony doesn't have a lot to show. This year they were very weird in how they approached, although I think they had a pretty darn great performance, and seeing their core lineup plus some surprises was really, really good. But next year, what do you show? You're at a juncture between PS4 and PS5 where you're probably not ready to put forth PS5 just yet, and you don't have a full lineup of PS4 stuff to unveil. You're probably going to be talking again about Ghost of Tsushima. You're probably going to be talking a lot about Death Stranding. You're probably going to be talking a lot about Last of Us 2. What else? That's kind of their lineup, you know, with Days Gone being shifted. That fills the May slot, and then you work your way backwards. You've got these other games. It's pretty much set. The path forward in 2019 for PlayStation 4 is a grand one. It is a glorious path to walk, but it's pretty set. So they don't have a whole lot to talk about, and they're probably not ready to talk fully about PS5. So that is one way to look at it, and I think probably the most logical. The other, and we've seen this rumor, that they may have some other event to really unload PS5 beginnings onto their fan base. Now, we did see a rumor leaker person state yesterday that Sony would be not at E3 2019, and the same person says it's because they have their own mid-year reveal event for PS5 and then a full-on blowout with the return of PSX at the end of the year. Now, take that with a grain of salt. It seems like it would be a little early, especially given the fact that they do have a pretty awesome lineup on the current PS4, but I would love that. The only way that you, for me personally, save the day and save my feelings from this E3 expulsion is by having another event and having something super cool to talk about. And that would be PS5. Every sign points to PS5 launching in 2020, and that's going to be a fall launch, so that's 2 years away at this point. But if they are able to work some magic and at least reveal the console in 2019, I mean, I would go crazy if it did see a surprise 2019 launch, but probably out of the realm of possibility at this point. But if they did just reveal in 2019, that'd be super cool. My favorite moments in the gaming industry outside of E3, of course, but as like a player, is putting a new console through the paces, seeing what the controller, the UI, the box itself, the online infrastructure, the games, how everything is going to come together. So much fun. Covering the Xbox One launch and the PlayStation 4 launch and the Switch launch, light years better than anything else I've had a chance to do, because I just love the newness. I love the fun. I love the fascination and the awe-inspiring moments that are made by having something brand new, especially from a technology standpoint and from a fun standpoint. Something that is supposed to be entertainment and entertain you in bold new ways with really pretty visuals, really cool boxes, and usually really awesome controllers. So that is another. You also have this strange thing where Sony has had PSX recently, and it's a pretty cool show. I think it's kind of low-key in comparison to other events, but they don't have it this year, and now they're not going to E3. That's kind of a weird look, so maybe that does lend some credence to, okay, they have a bigger something planned. Otherwise, why would you withdraw from two of your biggest chances for front-facing exposure and to get your games out there? If we want to dive into their specific statement, and conjecture aside, they say, as the industry evolves, Sony Interactive Entertainment continues to look for inventive opportunities to engage the community. PlayStation fans mean the world to us, and we always want to innovate, think differently, and experiment with new ways to delight gamers. As a result, we have decided not to participate in E3 in 2019. We are exploring new and familiar ways to engage our community in 2019, and can't wait to share our plans with ya. So, not a whole lot of information there, but they're exploring new and familiar ways. So, that kind of sounds like PSX may be back on the agenda, and maybe something else as well. I don't want to get people's hopes up too high, but surprise PS5 reveal 2018. It's got to be time. I've seen some people say no, like they're going to have such a great fall next year. They've got a great lineup. They're going to make more profit than ever because costs are down. But it's time. It's been so long, and you can feel that these are the swan song years, not because the system is like dying, but because the games are so strong and the prices are dipping so low. We have a $200 terabyte PlayStation 4 bundle with Spider-Man. That is a $140, $150 PS4 terabyte hard drive edition. That is pretty low. This isn't a console that still sits at $300. This is a console that is going to effectively cost you $150 to get this Black Friday. And at that point, yeah, it's going to make them a lot of money. Yeah, they're cruising into the stratosphere in terms of sales, but how many more sales can you make? And even if you announce the PS5, you're still going to sell based on the strength of Kojima, the strength of Ellie and Joel, the strength of these titles that are coming. I don't think that's going to be a problem. And you may see a reduction in new console buyers, but you're going to get so many this fall still with the lineup they had this year, God of War, Spider-Man, and you'll get so many leading up next year. I don't think it's crazy to say that they do come out with a little bit of PS5 next year. Now, a full-on blowout at PSX, I don't know. Is the launch going to be a year after that? It's a little odd to do what that rumor leaker was mentioning of like, a mid-year reveal and then an end-year blowout, and then the console doesn't come out for another full year. That seems a little much, although Sony has been showing some of these games like Days Gone for what feels like eons. I mean, they've been at E3 after E3 after E3, and I think for Sony specifically, their first-party lineup is so strong. Their exclusives are so incredible, and it's hard for me to rate Nintendo versus Sony when it comes to first-party exclusives. I will say that Sony games lately have appealed to me more in terms of reaching the top of my Game of the Year list. They do such a good job with that. It's so weird that the structure of their E3 presentation isn't stronger. Now, you could argue that because they showed such quality products, it still is so strong, but it doesn't have the wow whiz-bang factor I feel that some other players are able to pull forth and put out there during E3. So maybe this is just like everything coming together, that it's time for a transition. The games are already established and out there. We've covered them. E3 is a ton of money. We'd rather contact the fans directly and interact with them at smaller conventions that are more public. Maybe they do really want to bring back PSX in a big way. Will it still have that December slot, or will they move it a little? A lot of questions here, but before we forget what I started the video with, I am sad that E3 is going away. We can talk about Sony and their reasons, justifications. It can make a lot of sense. Business sense, consumer sense. I am sad to the core, honestly, guys, that E3 is leaving, basically. We had this moment years back where they went to like hotel-based stuff in Santa Monica, and I thought that sucked. I remember following the show, not in person, but via my favorite websites and podcasts, and they felt it was weird. I felt it was weird. I like the spectacle. I'm not saying we need to do what they did decade ago and have all sorts of humongous set pieces and booth babes and this crazy, just ridiculous showing that is just almost embarrassing to a certain extent. But I think the recent E3s have been great. I love when publishers go out there and put on a big show and put out a really awesome booth. I'll call back to like 2K with the Mafia 3 booth. Whatever you feel about that game, that's fine. But they did a crazy cool booth at E3, and seeing like the giant Goliath statue from Evolve there, or some of the things that they've done in the past with like Destiny and like a huge theater that had like TVs everywhere for Activision, and Nintendo, you know, decking out the entire space for Breath of the Wild. E3 is magical, and I'll be honest, like for me as someone that's trying to create content, it's the easiest show to cover because there's so much opportunity to get your hands on with games, to establish meetings with publishers, developers, and to get to work, because everyone there is trying to get to work. And I love PAX, and I've, you know, planned out, I'm gonna be at PAX East this March, April. So I have nothing against those shows. They are just harder to move, they are harder to see stuff, and they are harder to play stuff. And hey, I'll wait in lines if I have to for super cool games, but to create content and to bring coverage, it's easier at E3. And it's weird because I see a lot of gaming journalists who also benefit from the more calm nature and the more work-focused emphasis of E3, jaded about the show and saying that they don't think it needs to be there either. And that to me is so weird. And maybe it's an age thing as the current era of games journalists kind of edge closer to 40 and that range, and maybe they're just done with that. But to me, the spectacle and the magic that week holds, it still is my Christmas. It still is my favorite week of the year, because it's just new announcement after new announcement, and fun showing after fun showing, and crazy trailer and promise and hope. And maybe it's an idealistic vision of the gaming industry, but it's one that provides me with so much passion and so much inspiration each and every year. And so I love going to that show, and I love traveling to LA and getting ready and having a big week. I got all my stuff stolen this year, and I still had a good time. It was the worst luck I've ever had of getting all my equipment stolen the night before E3, and I still love the show. And I would hate to see it go. And I think that gaming is big enough now that there's a way to sustain an E3 plus all these other shows, sure. But seeing it dwindle, seeing it die off a bit, it hurts. I hope they're able to find a way to lure back the big publishers and create the big bonanza that they used to have in some fashion. I'm not sure if it'll ever occur. With more and more focus on live streams and these direct publisher-to-player interactions, we see Nintendo doing directs and being super successful. It's hard to justify, I'm sure, the money and the time and the efforts to create a big E3 show, a big press conference, all that. But it'll be a hole in the gaming industry and in my gaming heart if that goes away at some point completely. No Sony press conference. Nintendo sometimes delivers a big show, sometimes they don't. Microsoft sounds like they'll have theirs, and boy do they need it, because they got to show what the heck games they're creating. We know that they're acquiring studios, great, but what games do you have to draw us in, and then how are you going to set the stage for the next console to try and cut into Sony's pie? But it's going to be weird. Ubisoft will probably still be there with their big thing, and EA, sometimes great, sometimes very cringeworthy. I just don't want it to go. It feels like it is a landmark event, and it feels like it is a piece of history that we shouldn't let go of. And I hope that they're able to find a way to make it exciting, make it fun, and make it magical for new gamers. I know players today, you know, some of them just play Fortnite, some of them are just on mobile, but the experience of console explosion that E3 provides is something I hope everyone gets to experience. I think it's good for gaming. I think it's good to get single-player games exposure and emphasis. We've seen Sony do that so much and have so much success and create such quality experiences that, I don't know, I would just be miserable that second week of June if this show goes missing. And I think in general, you know, spreading thin is dangerous. It's fun and it expands, and maybe it makes more money and maybe it makes more marketing sense, but I don't know, there's something about the density of that one true event that I super love. So we'll have to see what they say going forward. We'll have to see if Sony provides us with some other plan, some other show. PS5, I cannot wait for that. That's the one thing that keeps me smiling about this, is like maybe Sony is really working behind the scenes, all hands on deck on PS5. And whether we see it or not, it's coming. It's coming, and it's coming soon. And E3 seems like it's going and going, but I just hope it's not gone. Let me know your take on this whole Sony removing themselves from E3, how you feel about that for the industry, how you feel about the show in general, and then what you think their plan is, given the potential for PS5 some sort of reveal, or at least gearing up for 2020. Thanks so much for watching, guys and girls. Hope you guys are having a fantastic day, and this wasn't too much of a bummer. It just, I love E3, and I love you. So until next time, drink so much salt. Thanks again. Have a fantastic day, and we will see you all later.